Hi, Sugar. How are
I
you?
love. I am wonderful. I'm here.
Same. So am I. So everybody, I'm calling her Sugar because I love her. But want to introduce you to Goddess Amina. Amina, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Goddess Amina. I'm the founder and director of the Atlanta Institute of Tantra and Divine Sexuality. I center the pleasure of Black women in my work and focusing on all the ways that we get to experience pleasure. So through our body embodiment, through our sexuality, in our diets, in our ways of thinking. I'm also the host of the Fix Your Sex podcast. So I love conversations about sex and sexuality and normalizing and by normalizing the ways that we connect in relationships and in community. So in some way, shape, or form.
Can you tell me about a relationship, Amina, where you didn't necessarily find yourself fulfilled in? It's hard to think of you as not being fulfilled in a relationship because of the human that you are at this point, but what was it like when you weren't this self-assured?
I actually spent so much time in relationships unfulfilled that this human you see today is as a result of a lot of humaning. Okay. And yeah, right. My first, I think that my second marriage, because I'm on my third, my second marriage was probably the most profoundly unfulfilling. But the reality is that most of my relationships were unfulfilling because I was the fulfiller. That was the role I had taken on. Constantly just pouring into people, pouring into lovers, taking on projects as relationships and trying to feel fulfilled in the giving. And you can't continuously pour and be fulfilled at the same time. Like, it's just impossible. But I was one of those people that say, I'm just a giver. That's what I do. And so I was empty often. And my second marriage was really that. I had my first marriage was abusive, and not physically so, really, but it was definitely an abusive relationship. And so I wanted protection. My second husband offered that, right? I wanted more than protection, though, and I hadn't claimed or said or thought about really spent any time deciding what I wanted. I just knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to live in fear. I wanted to be protected. I was tired of protecting myself. I was tired of defending myself. And so I ran to a friend and married a man who I knew would protect me. I mean, I knew this. I knew this because he had did a bid already. So I knew I didn't have nothing to worry about. And it was unfulfilling. That's all I was going to get from that marriage was what I had sought out. And that's what I got. I got
what you asked for, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And because I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted, because I didn't know what I wanted, I had never spent time really getting to know me. I was in my second marriage in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was
in my first proper marriage in my 20s too, and it was a similar experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that happens a lot for us as Black women, that we are, and maybe women in general, right? Because patriarchy tells us that marriage is supposed to somehow protect us from the big bad boogeyman, and so we run to that, and we, because that's where we'll be safe. We were somebody's daughter, now we're somebody's wife, and there's protection in that.
And we believed it.
And we believed it. Oh, I believed it. I believed it. And I fulfilled what I thought my role was supposed to be in that, which was, again, pouring into every crevice of that man. And I needed so much more. But one of the things I've been I've been a runner. So it was easy for me to get out of the second one too. And I just, at one point, I realized I needed more. I acknowledged it. I had received touch from someone else.
Mhm.
And I realized I longed for something more. And I told him, this ain't gonna work. And so, but that was a powerful lesson for me. And I spent the next almost 20 years, next 14 years, really looking, and not looking for love, but looking for me, looking for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. What were you finding about you that was attracting what you had attracted at those times? You know?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I found is that I was terrified of who I could be.
Mm.
What I mean, like, I grew up with a pretty revolutionary Black mama who, definitely was on the you could be anything you want, you could do anything you want
Mhm.
track. But then I didn't see that for Black women,
Right.
right? So it's one thing to be told that, so you kind of believe it, but then you look around and you're like, but
I don't have any example.
I don't have any examples of this. And
Mhm.
so when I would be in my moments of power, I was scared of it. And I would run from it sometimes, I would run towards things that I thought were acceptable. Like I laugh at myself now because I was a competitive power lifter. I
Yeah.
started, I've done some strong woman competition, like just find, you talk about trying to find yourself. Like I was moving in ways that I like, just maybe if I could show y'all something else that I'm worthy of, or that I can do, that you won't focus on all this that's inside of me. And I was really running from every sense of power. And eventually, I think what I found in myself was just that, like, who I am,
Mhm.
my femininity, all the ways that I get to show up as a woman, as a Black woman, as a goddess. All of those are very powerful, useful, beautiful elements of me. And I got to spend some time getting to know what that's like, instead of all the things I could be outside of myself. Because I was just running. I was still
Yeah.
running. I ran away from home when I was 14, and I feel like I didn't stop running until I was about 39.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's beautiful that you can say that,
Yeah. No.
that you can forgive yourself,
Mhm.
because that's like the first part of it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's beautiful. So now that you've found, um, now that I hate the word found, but I'm gonna use it.
Okay.
Now that you, because it's just easy words. Now that you're here, let's call it that.
Okay.
What what does sexuality, what is self-sexuality? Like, you teach this, you teach people how to be beautiful lovers to themselves, to their partner, to their mind, to their partner's mind. But what does it really mean to you? Like when you're in your private place,
Mhm.
what does sexuality mean to you?
To me, sexuality is the energy of desire,
Mm.
right? And so that shows up in so many places. And we try to contain it. We try to label it and define it and put it in categories and check some boxes. But that's really because we're trying to take control of it in a place
Mhm.
where everyone else seems to control it but us, right? Like it's not,
Mhm.
I wanna own this thing. So
Right.
let me name it. Let me put something on it. Let me give it a title and a definition. But I think really at the end of the day, it's the energy of desire. And
Mhm.
um and it's creative energy because of that, right?
Mhm.
And so so for me, when I'm teaching sexuality and I'm teaching, what I'm really teaching is getting to know your own desire,
Mhm.
getting to know what you want, right? Which goes back
Yeah.
to, like we'll keep circling back around this, but it's
Yeah.
like as we spend so much of our lives not being allowed to want anything.
Yeah. To
and
really want it.
to really want it, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to judge it if we want it. We have to make sure that we don't just get to feel like, oh, I want this, and then have it.
Yeah.
And so sexuality shows up like that to me. And there's, I think, a really, really powerful moment for us to kind of understand that and then just move with that energy. Like watch the world bend and kneel at you because you've got to a point where you understand that.
Because you're in a place where you really realize that you can create and curate your exact experience that you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is really the most important thing. Once you realize that, like once you know, okay, I can, it's actually a beautiful thing that happens. Once you know that you can curate your life, you don't really have time for anything else.
Yeah. And it's so cool. Like once you get to that point,
Yeah.
I don't, I've been a student of Buddhism for some years now, and I don't know what self-actualization really is, but I think that's it. Like this is mine, and I get to experience it and curate it based on my desire. And I really think oppression, especially the oppression that we've come to know, is kind of rooted in taking that away, right? Because as long as I can curate a desire for you, I can pack it up and sell it to you, or I can tell you who can and cannot have it.
Exactly.
And that's who has the power then. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. So earlier you talked about, your mommy, and like your mommy was a badass and so cool and beautiful and free. But and she told you, like my mommy told me, that you could be anything that you want to be and that you have to work for it and all the stuff. But you said something interesting. You didn't really see an example of what that looked like, and probably especially what that looked like from the opposite sex, right? So who is a human that you did see that helped you to model, this self-actualizations, this self-love, who was a person that you learned from to get you to where you are right now? Or did you have a person or persons or humans, or, how would you?
Yeah, I think my dad,
Yeah.
I would say for me, my very first model of what love could look like comes from him. And I say that I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my dad. He passed away when I was young, but I lived with him just up until right before he died. And I lived with my mother first, but I lived with him, and it was a very different experience. My mother my mother believes in whooping some butt, so I've had my fair share
Out of there.
of right. The belt was a common, thing in our household, but my father was not. He would if he felt it was really necessary, but it was a last resort for him. And so he taught me a bit about anger and love. And I think that for me, that has been a big part of how I model myself, how I experience love, how I am allowed to love myself, is that I'm allowed to be angry. And I remember I had I've done some things as a child. I wasn't always the perfect kid.
Everybody has though. Everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure, of course. But I did some things. I did something in school once, and this was like when I was 10. And my dad's like, "Go to the room." He said, "I'm too angry to even process this right now. Go to the room, and we'll deal with this later." And I sat in that room, that period in that room, it might as well have been 20 years in prison, because it probably was 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But it was the longest period of my life. And when I came out of the room, he still loved me. And he loved on me. And
he did.
He talked to me. There was a lot of healing that came in that moment for me. that I've carried with me throughout my life. The biggest thing is that I'm allowed to be angry and still be loved. I'm
Yeah.
allowed to be angry and still love myself. I'm allowed to be angry and still love someone who has made me angry. And that is a lesson that I think, I don't know how to put that on the billboards, but
Mhm.
for the angry Black woman trope, I think that there's something to be said about recovery. Like you can be angry, you don't have to stay angry. You can
Right.
experience anger, but you don't have to be anger.
Right.
And that is really has like transformed me every year. Every year, this memory from being 10, right? Like it
Mhm.
still sits here with me every year. And so Lama Rod Owens, who really couldn't be more different than my father in many ways,
Yeah.
self-proclaimed, fat, Black, queer, loudmouth Southern
I
Buddhist.
love that.
Right. But my dad is this like, fit, militaristic, Southern
Yeah.
Baptist gentleman. But they remind me a lot of each other. Lama Rod Owens in his book, Love and Rage, really also has reignited my permission to experience anger in a society that says you can't. And I say this because a part of me being like me moving into self-actualization, me realizing who I am, is that all of these emotions are going to show up in relationships, in
They
love,
are.
my self-love, and
They have to.
they have to. And so if I tell myself I can't experience them, then I'm telling myself I'm not safe in these spaces. And if I'm not safe in them, then is this love? And
They're not.
so it's not. And so
Yeah.
that's what really kind of, that's my dad. That's the
No,
long
that's
answer to that.
beautiful. That's beautiful, you know? So we're in this period as humans, which is amazing. I'm not talking shit about it at all, but it is incredible that
Mhm.
self-care, self-love are buzzwords at this point,
Yeah.
right? Um, you know, Sometimes I get asked all the time when I'm doing an interview. So what do you do for self-care? you know? And it's a beautiful question. My answer is often like I just want to sit down and be quiet, or be near my plants, or watch a show, or do whatever I want to do, right?
Right.
What are the things that you do, but not the transactional things like the bubble bath and unless that's what you do, and if that's what you do, that's cool. But like what are the things that you do for your self-care, self-love practice,
Um,
um on an often basis?
yeah. I um I like to think of it as like the evolution of the bubble bath.
Yeah.
The deepening of the bubble bath, because I'm this is me both guilty and apologizing also to anyone who's ever heard me say, but there was a point where I was like, it's not just bubble baths. and
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a beautiful love in my life who is a single mother of a beautifully rambunctious 6-year-old Black girl, free Black
Mm.
girl, and I love watching her. And I witnessed, like, she takes a lot of baths. That's her self-care thing, right? And what I
Yeah.
realized in that is that that's the space she gets to hide in,
Yeah.
right? That's the space where she gets to sit and be silent. And so I realized in witnessing her and just witnessing my own personal evolution, for me, the ocean was that space where I would go and just float. But there's a deepening in self-care, right? So self-care at the surface level, we see the tub or we see the ocean, but there's something else that's there. And so I'm always asking, what else is there? Like, what am I getting from the ocean? Like, why am I craving to go to the ocean? And for me, in the salt water, um, it was this feeling of lightness. It's the
Mhm.
salt water. And in the salt water, I'm weightless. In the salt water, I float with ease and I don't experience tension in the body, which made me realize that self-care for me is actually finding ways to release tension. And I have been going to massage therapy and things like that, which are great. I love them both. I
Right,
love
for sure, for sure.
But what I really needed to do for myself was acknowledge what some of the causes of this tension were, because tension is often me pulling away, right? It's often me bracing. And so I had to start realizing, like, realization is a part of my self-care. Like, what am I tense from? What am I pulling away or bracing for? What is creating tension? What memory of trauma is still holding my body in this way? And how can I release that? Because that is when I start to care for myself at a deeper level. And so sometimes though it has to start with just floating in the ocean or just hiding in
Absolutely.
the bathtub and then creating space for me to think about it.
So with all those things in mind, with your self-care, with the humans that have, that have interacted with you in your life, that have made you better, with the trauma, with all the things, like, how has that impacted your relationships now?
Hmm. I mean, it's shaped so much of who I am that how could it not, right? I look at how I move in relationships now, and I'm very grateful. First of all, I'm grateful for those who held grace for me as I was growing, as I'm growing and evolving, because I have some beautiful lifelong relationships. I have friends who were lovers 20 plus years ago, and we are close friends because there was grace there. Because I'm not sure if the being friends with 20-year-old me and being friends with 45-year-old me does not require a lot of grace in that
For
period.
sure.
And so that has allowed me, it's reminded me to hold grace for myself and for others also. And it's allowed me to sit with the needs of others, to really listen to what they're saying when they speak about their own needs in the way that I desire, right? So I show up in the way that I want others to show up for me, so that I'm constantly reminded of that. And so that when it's not happening, I know it, I see it, and I don't have to be there, right? Like, I ain't got to stay here. Everyone doesn't get access, and being okay with that. I talked about my father passing away when I was younger, but that also impacts my relationships because I had to learn how to grieve at a young age.
Mm.
And grief is a part of relationships. Letting go is a part of relating.
Because
And
we're all gonna leave this place.
we're all gonna leave this place. And you may leave my place before you leave this place. And I may have to grieve that too,
And
right?
that's okay. Yeah. Nothing lasts forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it because of that, the fight is gone, right? I don't have to be bucked up anymore. Like, no, you about to leave me. Let me make, like,
Not,
all
you
of
want to
that.
go, you should go.
Yeah, go and let me help you. And let's go in love. Let's be in love. Let's
Exactly.
keep up with this. And so it changes how you move in your relationships when you're not fighting to make sure the relationships stay. All of this talk about struggle love, like, I hear it. And if that's your jam, I'm not hating on it. If you like it, I love it, as my grandmother would say. But the reality is I don't desire that. I don't desire struggle love. I'm not getting ready to fight for it. I am going to welcome abundant love and love that is free of chaos and drama. And so I'm going to try to embody that as much as I can, right? And don't get me wrong, sometimes, sometimes the south side of Chicago will show up and,
But that's normal.
right, it's normal. And and it's who I am. So I'm not taking away from that. But I'm in relationships with people who love me like I love myself. And so there's, like I said, there's grace. All of this has been, all of these things and these lessons I hold dear because they show up every day, every which way. And they remind me that that we can create the life that we desire. And so that it really changes the way relationships work for me. Romantic, platonic, and as of recently, even familial. And that I had give myself permission to say that, like, my family, you don't, if you, you don't have to be around me. We won't lose our relationship. You go off with
Yeah,
my
it's
cousin.
okay.
It's okay, but I'm not going to sit around and suffer um, because of blood, right? And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and because of the mechanism of control, which isn't even real.
no,
It's
no.
such an illusion,
Mhm.
And so it's like, let's not force it. Like, if this shit ain't working, doesn't matter how it's not working, it's cool. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay, because I agree with you. Relationships should be easy.
It should.
Friends, they should be. That doesn't mean that hard times don't come. That's not what I'm saying. But relationships should be easy. They should feel amazing. It should be beautiful. It should be sunshine. It should be sexy. It should be happy, comfortable.
Yeah.
If it becomes the opposite of that, then what the fuck am I doing? Why are we doing this? This is
Right.
stupid. That's not what this is for. This is a choice,
No.
you know?
Right. And in my relationships, I seek refuge from the
Yeah,
chaos in the relationships that I've built.
exactly.
And so if I'm coming from out there and I
And
come
like
in,
this, like, please.
right. This is where I'm coming for this, I need to be held now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to hold you now when you come in from out there. So I don't
Mhm.
want what's happening out there to be mimicked in here. And and I don't want to be re-traumatized over and over again. I need a place where I don't have to experience that. And I think a lot of times we don't, you asked about, like, well, how does that shape my relationships? Is that I now know that. And so my relationships look different, right?
Yeah,
Before,
me
I
too.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
didn't know I could have that because I didn't see it.
yeah,
I just thought, everybody talks about struggle love. So you're just really supposed
yeah,
to.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, that's crazy. Don't
Mhm.
struggle in love, y'all.
Mm. No.
Unless you want to,
Right.
because I think that also is a part of the process. You have to struggle enough and reach a bottom sometimes to understand that, no, that's not where I live.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. So, Amina, like, you touched on some of this, but what does it mean to you, right, for you to be seen as your authentic self?
My like I said, it's that refuge, right? So for me, it's meeting me, right? Meeting myself in the morning and being able to be her without fearing that I'm going to be harmed in any way because I am who I am.
Mm.
There is, I'm human,
Yeah,
right? The goddess is speaking about humanity.
yeah,
Right. And so what does that mean for me to be human? That's the authentic me. Who is the human Amina? Right?
right.
The human Amina is going to run the gamut of emotions. I'm going to be sad and happy and angry and lost and confused and excited and silly and playful and sensual and erotic. And I want to be all of these things. I want to experience the whole rainbow of emotions. And I don't want anyone to run away from me in that space. So for me, showing up authentically in relationships, it's really important that I find relationships that I can be all of those things in and not be left to feel bad about being me. Right. And that is not on the other person. That's on me. My
That's
feelings is on
exactly.
me. Right. But to be seen and witnessed is such powerful magic. So when I'm seen and witnessed as who I am and still loved, I am reminded that I am loved, right? And so that to me is how I show up authentically and how I need to show up authentically. It's not just I do it because I want to be authentic or because it's a hashtag or because I want to show up.
There's just no other way to be.
There's just no other way. If I don't get to be, I don't know what the other side of that is going to look like, but it sounds terrifying. It sounds terrifying to me to be, to have to pretend to be somebody else all the time so that I can experience love.
My marriage was like that, you know, like I had to show up, and I was constantly told that who I wasn't good, so I needed to change. You know, it was a constant thing in it. It's crazy when that's the case, because you actually start to believe it.
Right.
Yeah, and it is a very terrifying place.
And that just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? About the chaos of the outside, because the outside world is telling you that every day. But you, nah, they're not talking to me, or nah, I know that's not real. And then you come home and hear it, and you're like, damn, like, oh, I'm not enough. I thought they were lying back there, right? And so, and some people don't even get past that, right? Sometimes it's hard to just, you taking that message enough from outside and you believe it. But sometimes you can shake off that message and then you come home and you still hear it from your lover, from your family. Yeah, it's like, it's hard to shake that off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful to have shook that shit off now, you know, and it wasn't all his fault. I was responsible in that too, because I believed it and I stayed and I went with it, you know. So I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that to do shots fired towards him. That wasn't it at all. But I know what that's like because I've been there, you know, and I'm sure that somebody's going to be listening to this who is either there or has also been there and is trying to work through that. You know, and so my next question is around being the strong Black woman, right? How we internalize that, because in a lot of ways we've been conditioned to be that.
Right.
But how do we break down that stereotype so that we can actually honor our intimacy to other people, but also to ourselves? You know, because I don't believe in being. If I'm strong because I want to be, but like I don't want to be strong all the time.
Right.
You know, what's your take on it?
I definitely, like it's so funny because I think about whenever I hear about the strong Black woman, I think about how much time I spent trying to really be outwardly strong. I mean, okay. Remember, I was carrying a yoke in a competition around a track. And I remember,
no, bitch, up Mount Everest.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? And so I think the biggest thing to me for the strong Black woman of the release of this need really to be the strong Black woman is one thing is that's not armor. Strength is not armor. And I know we do it because we want to protect ourselves, but we also do it because we want to control things, because we feel like we don't have anything and that we are controlling. So there's two sides, and one is like, I need to do this to make sure I'm safe. You're not safe. Okay, so you're safe, it ain't safe. So, and the other side is that this is not, you know, like this, it's not protective. And you can't control this way. You just wear yourself down. So I always, when I'm coaching a client and I'm coaching them from this, like everything that you think, you're letting go of this, like anything you can do, I can do better, right? The song from childhood is still taunting us. And it's, right? Like, you don't have to. Everything's already been done. Like, I can do it all. I can do it all is one way. but everything has already been done. There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. You don't have to prove yourself. Who are you in competition with? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the best that ever did it. Why not just do it?
Yeah,
Just do
and be
what brings
okay with
you,
that.
and be okay with what you do, because best is subjective. And now you're chasing perfection, and
That doesn't exist.
it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And so it's self-harm, right? When you do this. And one of the most intimate things that you can really do is ask someone for help. One of the most bravest
One of the
displays.
strongest things you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to be strong and you want to experience intimacy. Be what quote unquote vulnerable, right? Like, which is not really also real.
Right. Words, right?
Right. These are words that we have to come up with. Like, well, I feel real vulnerable right now. What does that mean? Does that mean someone's going to harm you because you asked for help?
Yeah,
No.
nobody's gonna harm
No
you.
one's going to harm you. Someone
Yeah.
might say no. Will you have an emotion to that no?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Right?
but that's okay too.
Because you're a human, and guess what? You are an emotional being.
Yeah.
A lot of the strong Black woman trope gets, to me, it takes away from our feminine reality. And this is one of the byproducts of patriarchy. Our feminine reality is that emotion is water. In the spiritual world, in the woo spaces, we know that emotion is water, and that this is feminine energy, and we all possess it. But what happened is we're living in the shadow, whereas we're now in this age of the Aquarius, we're living in the shadow of the celebration of the masculine, which is rationality. And so then we're scared of emotion. Now we don't want to be emotional, and now emotions are weakness.
Yeah.
That couldn't be further from the truth. That's just something that they sold you. And so we start,
and you bought it.
And you bought it.
And
We
put
all
it
bought
on.
it. We all bought it and put it in our bags and said we're strong enough to carry it. But it's emotions are strength also. Water is strong. It carves through rock. And so when we start, it moves boulders. So when we start really thinking about like what strength is, a lot of times it's actually not what we're embodying anyway. When we think we're the strong Black woman, we actually are the controlling Black woman, or the angry Black woman, or the lost and scared Black woman. And that's fine too. But say what it is.
And be okay with it.
Be okay with it. Stop hiding behind the need to be visibly strong, because that's
and everybody, even us having this conversation right now, that does not mean that moving forward, me and you won't have a moment where we want to be the strong Black woman, right? Like, I never want to portray to the humans that are consuming this content, which is responsible content, right? That just because these are the conversations that we're having, that doesn't mean that we won't fall back into that trap.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I
know I shouldn't eat sugar that much, but I'm still probably gonna have a cake. Like
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's not to say this is us just trying to get into this life, right?
Absolutely.
Like we're
this is the work.
This is the work. And Lama Rada, speaking of Lama Rada Owens, he says when we don't do the work, we become work for other people. And so when you be in relationships, you want to engage in relationships. And a lot of the women that my clientele base is 80% Black women. And there's a lot of talk about moving into relationships. So this is just the work that we do so that when we're in relationships, we're fed too.
Exactly. So what does it mean to build a healthy relationship?
It means, to me, it means getting to know yourself so that you can, it means boundaries, right? To me, healthy relationships mean that you understand what a boundary is, what your personal boundaries are. Are the things that you need to feel available, to be present, to not hide and run away, or to not make yourself small, or to not be in defense. If you can figure out who you are and what you are and what you need. And it's an evolution. What I
Mhm.
needed 5 years ago ain't what I need today. And what I need today is not going to be what I need in 5 years, quite possibly.
That might not even be what you need in 5 minutes.
Right, right. And so like getting to know that so that you can be in relationship with someone, because I enter into relationships now for myself,
Absolutely,
right?
as you should.
You should, but that was not where I was. I was entering in relationships because I said, oh, this person, even though I never said it out loud, I can look back now and say, I was in that relationship because I believed that person needed me and what I wanted to feel was needed.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes we move into relationships because we want to feel needed, not
Mm.
loved.
Mm.
And so to me, being in a healthy relationships, meaning knowing what I need to feel loved and making sure that I'm moving in the spaces where I get to feel that, where I get to be loved and feel love. And so and that looks different. And I didn't see that growing up. So I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
I did not, don't have um, real healthy relationships that I got to witness growing up.
Yeah.
I think I had an illusion of a healthy relationship with my grandmother and my grandfather. But she was a widow. She was a young widow. So I must have been about 3 or 4 when that illusion went away. And I don't, I don't know much more about it, but I know she didn't marry again. So whatever it wasn't a
Right.
good.
She was like, nope, I'm good.
Right. Now being
Done it.
older, I'm like, I hear you, Mama. I hear you. And so yeah, I think that it's taking a lot of relearning also. Honoring what you want, right? Instead of celebrating the mythical creature of the relationship that you may have witnessed. The like they still together
That
relationships
don't mean anything.
that don't mean anything. Healthy relationships. I can't not think about boundaries. Prentice Hemphill said that boundaries are the distance at which you and I can love each other simultaneously. And that quote has just like it landed somewhere in me. It's just
And
been
it just found a house in there.
yeah, it's in here. And so I'm like, with that, I have permission to have boundaries and to
Yeah.
and I don't want to stand outside my boundaries with an AK-47. So also a healthy relationship means that I built this boundary, and the boundary is not a barbed wire fence, it's a row of flowers. But you know that this is my boundary and you honor it. And then we'll have transgressions also. A healthy relationship to me looks like also recovery. Because what happens when I step on the flowers? What is that?
They have to recover.
How do we recover? Can we recover?
Yeah.
And so feeling safe, right? Safety as a Black woman in Babylon and like safety is healthy relationship. And knowing what I need to feel safe is important to that. And so there's a few things to me that go in this cauldron that I'm mixing up to create the healthy relationships that I need. But I think really the invitation is for all of us to really start thinking about what are those things that you need to feel whole? What contributes to your wholeness, to that sensation of I'm complete? And it can't be another person. It has to be things.
It's all you.
It's all you. And as you know what that is, then you can tell other people, right? You can make that a song you sing everywhere you go. And I think of our ancestors and the practice of call and response, that when you know it and you sing it, that the one that responds to your song is those are your people, and your relationships will look different then.
That's beautiful. I have one last question. I have so many more questions, but unfortunately, the way that the time goes, this is what it is. If you were to use 3 words that exemplify what Black love is, what would they be?
Yeah, Black, but Nina Simone say Black is the color of my true love skin. That's it. There's what we have is Anyway, my 3 words would be feeling is knowing.
Mm.
And I say that because there is something in us as Black people, but also in humanity as a whole that has us scared to feel. We're terrified of feeling. And I think it's in that feeling that makes us look up at the sky and imagine that there's a great puppeteer up there that's controlling things. Because when we feel, then we really start to know, and that can be scary. But when you know, when you really know, then that's what love is. And
Yeah.
so allowing yourself to feel is,
Trusting that feeling.
yeah, like if you feel love, you know love.
Mhm.
And if what we have to just remember that feeling is knowing,
Yeah.
and our bodies are powerful, and
Yeah.
this is love. Your
It
body,
is. It
yeah.
is, girl. Listen.
Every part of you is a walking, living reflection of love. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
miraculous that you are here, however you are here.
Exactly.
And and when you can feel into that, then you know, right? When I'm with my partner, with any of my partners, to feel that,
Mhm.
to know that
It's
we are.
beautiful.
And so yeah, that's it.
It's beautiful. Goddess Amina, I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
Thank you for your time and your love and your energy and this beautiful conversation. Thank every human that's watching this. Thank you so much to my team who put this together. And yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful day.